Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. With the Season 3 Reloaded update, we saw the introduction of a brand new perk here in Warzone, Serpentine, which pre-Season 3 Reloaded, once it was announced that that was going to happen, a lot of players were very skeptical, saying, oh, a perk that's going to reduce incoming damage is going to completely destroy the meta. Well, today, we're breaking down the perk meta, seeing where Serpentine falls in, and basically just breaking down what perks you probably want to be using after Season 3 Reloaded, because we do have some pretty significant changes since we last went over these on the channel. So as we break it all down today, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, so feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. And also real quick, let's check out today's video sponsor. Hey everyone, just a heads up, today's video is sponsored by Meridian Grooming. Meridian Grooming offers precision grade products that make keeping up with your personal hygiene easier and more convenient than ever before. Let's be honest, personal hygiene is one of the keys to feeling comfortable in your own skin, right? And as they say, you look good, you feel good. And with the Deluxe To Go package, you got everything you need right away. This package comes with all the essentials, right? You get a nail kit, you get a to-go bag. You also get the spray, which let me tell you, smells absolutely incredible. And most importantly, it comes with the trimmer. This also comes along with some extra guards, and it has some replacement blades as well. So you are like completely set from the get-go, right? Now the trimmer itself is as simple as it gets, and that's why I love it. It is ergonomic, it is waterproof, and most importantly, it is comfortable to use. So if you want to pick up a Deluxe To Go package for yourself and get started on that personal hygiene routine right away, all you got to do is check out the link down in the description below. Yes, it is in fact that easy. Once again, huge thank you and shout out to Meridian Grooming for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get back to it. So we are here on Warzone Ranked, wzranked.com if you're interested, where we can break down the pick rate and the usage, the KD, the win percentage of basically everything in the game. We can look at primary weapons, we can look at secondary weapons, we can see which weapons are being used, which perks are being used, which equipment is being used. Obviously today, we're focused on the perks. So as I'm recording this, it's the 26th. This video will be a few days in advance, but Serpentine already on the site, we have a decent breakdown of it. It's being used by almost 4% of players. The KD and the win percentage is a little bit skewed here because it's such a brand new perk. It obviously has not had the amount of time to really make its way into the meta to go against things like Double Time or Cold Blooded, so on and so forth, even some of these other perks here as well. So KD and win percentage don't really matter too much just because there's not enough full data there. But what we can do is compare it versus the other perks that we have here, specifically in Perk 1. And obviously, a lot of what's in Perk 1 is affected by things in Perk 2, things in Perk 3. Now, for what it's worth, Serpentine, not nearly as broken as a lot of us thought it might be. When we heard it was going to be a 20% reduction to damage incoming if you were sprinting, obviously that eliminates things like one-shot snipers. It really changes the TTK for a lot of guns. But based off of gameplay so far, me testing it out, I've seen some other players talking about it on Twitter as well, some other creators, I should say. Serpentine seems to really come into effect once your armor is broken. It's on, base health, where once that armor is cracked, then you'll start to see Serpentine come into effect and that reduced 20% damage if you have no armor. So it really does not have as big of an impact in a fight than what we thought it might off the rip, where if you were 300 HP, then it was 20% reduced damage if you were sprinting, which, gung-ho on a class setup, you're always sprinting. Could be pretty broken. It doesn't seem to be as big of a deal. So honestly, I feel like Serpentine enters the Perk 1 competition with Quick Fix, EOD, Cold Blooded, and Double Time, but it's not clearly the #1 choice like a lot of players thought it might be going into it. It's good, but I don't feel like you have to run it by any means. It's not a must-use perk just because the way they balanced it out. Now, as you can see, Double Time is Perk 1. It's the most used, 38%. It's actually the third most used perk in the game behind Overkill, which, let's be honest, we don't really count this as like a super used perk because everyone's using it just to get 2 guns. It's not like a perk in the sense of a lot of these other ones where it's used on a class for other reasons. People just want their loadouts. So like that pick rate, obviously very skewed. We don't really necessarily have to take that almost 70%, 69%, nice, into consideration as much as these other pick rates. Combat Scout though, 40%. And this to me is a massive, massive talking point. Combat Scout before, it was a high picked perk. It was up in the high teens, I think 20s for quite some time, behind Amped, above Trackers. So it was oftentimes the second most used Perk 3 perk. Obviously things like Ghosts were picked well above it. EOD and Double Time, Cold Blooded as well, picked well above it. Now though, outside of Overkill, which again is sort of an asterisk in this case, Combat Scout is the most used perk in the game. Most fights you run into have at least one player using Combat Scout out of a squad, and the only way to combat that is with Cold-Blooded. So now to me, rather than double time, which let's be honest, double time is great because you can get that slightly faster crouch speed and that faster attack sprint duration. But if you're a top tier player, if you're slide canceling at all, even if you're not very good at it, if you're slide canceling here and there, double time becomes useless because you're already resetting your attack sprint. The duration becomes obsolete. So double time, while it's a good perk for those that don't slide cancel, if you're a decent player, it's really not worth using this anymore. Now, I think the perk 1 meta really shifts towards Cold-Blooded and slightly EOD because they did just buff a lot of the explosives. So I guess that could be very useful, but primarily Cold-Blooded is the way to go. This is not a ground loot perk, so you cannot get it via the chest and whatnot. You can get a lot of these other ones though, for what it's worth. So that's pretty solid. Cold-Blooded though, simply to counter Combat Scout and make it so that those players don't get that highlighted orange box around you, so that you're basically getting cheated on, wall hacked on in legal ways, you could say. It's sort of a must pick for me. And I've noticed just over the past couple of weeks for using Cold-Blooded that my KD, my win percentage, it's gone up because I'm winning more fights because players are so reliant on Combat Scout. And because of that, I do feel like this could be nerfed in the future here. This was brought into the game as a sort of combatant against so many cheaters back on Verdansk, where we had a major cheating problem. It's not as bad anymore. The cheating problem has largely gone down. It's not perfect by any means, let's be honest, but there's not nearly as many cheaters as there were before. Hence why Combat Scout is now being used more, because it's easier to get that advantage in fights and not get cheated on. But because there's no serious cheater threat like there was back on Verdansk, this isn't a super necessary perk in the game, at least in my opinion. That's my 2 cents because I don't like it. Obviously, I'm biased against it. But that said, I could see a nerf happen here because it's just so dominant versus everything else. Hence why Cold-Blooded, at least for the time being, is that go-to perk in perk 1. Perk 2, I feel like restock now more than ever is becoming very useful. Even running no overkill and using an amp as a secondary and forcing restock into your gameplay is incredibly useful because you can spam snapshots, which again I don't really enjoy, I don't really agree with. I think they're overpowered, but it is what it is. You can spam snapshots, you can spam stuns, you can spam flashes. Stims obviously not as lethal as before and as effective as before, but restock when it comes to winning gunfights is a huge play. And technically outside of tempered, which I also think is very good, but you can get that out of chests. You can do restock as well, but having restock as a confirmed perk I feel like is a little bit more valuable than tempered, at least my 2 cents again. But outside of tempered, it's one of the highest KD perk 2 perks. That high alert and tempered are the go-tos, which I think are the 3 best perk 2 perks outside of overkill, right? And so it's reflective of that. Being able to constantly use stuns, snapshots, flashes every 25 seconds, I think, incredibly powerful in a gunfight. So restock to me becomes a very valuable perk 2 perk. Honestly, on your first loadout, or if you want to use overkill and have your 2 guaranteed primaries on your second loadout, for sure I'd be running restock. And then perk 3, obviously Combat Scout is the go-to. I don't use it because I don't like it, so I'm still sticking with amped. Pretty much everything else here is useless. Battle hardened counters snapshots, but it still shows you that a player is there. So it's really a terrible counter. An enemy snapshots you with battle hardened, they get a notification that you're still there. You just don't get highlighted. So if you're in one lone building, the enemies are gonna know exactly where you're at, regardless of you being highlighted through a wall. These other ones just are not worth it. So to me, amped, Combat Scout, restock, obviously overkill, but tempered, high alert, and Cold-Blooded are really the only must-use perks in my opinion at the moment. And the season 3 Loaded update, even with Serpentine, changed some things, but I don't think we're fully there and having a very balanced perk meta quite yet. Really, the only competitive area is perk 2. Like perk 1, there are some decent ones, obviously we talked about. Perk 3 is not competitive at all. Perk 1, you could get away with using some of these other ones, but perk 2 is really where it's at because so many valuable perks are here. And I imagine we'll see some changes in the future. Raven in the past has already alluded to more perk tuning happening, but as it stands right now, I think there's a very definitive perk meta, even post season 3 Reloaded. And that said, that's gonna wrap things up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.